Most people believe that thought transmission is about control. They think if they can just visualize hard enough, repeat affirmations long enough, or imagine a scene vividly enough, they can insert a specific thought into someone else's mind. They believe that if they focus on one person and mentally say, they miss me, they love me, they are thinking about me, then somehow that exact sentence will travel into that person's brain and force them to act accordingly. This belief feels logical on the surface because manifestation is often taught as influence. So people sit there trying to push thoughts, trying to send mental messages, trying to almost hack someone's mind from a distance. But here is the truth that changes everything. You are not transmitting thoughts to them. You are transmitting who you are being. And that one shift completely destroys the old way of doing thought transmission and replaces it with something far more powerful and far more natural. Because think about this carefully. If thought transmission was really about forcing specific ideas into someone's head, then every time you imagine something once, it should instantly reflect. But that is not what happens. You imagine them texting you, but they don't. You affirm they love you, but they remain distant. You visualize a conversation, but in reality, they behave the opposite way. So what is going wrong? It is not that thought transmission does not work. It is that you are trying to use it in the wrong direction. You are aiming outward, trying to control them, when the real transmission is happening inward first, shaping who you are being. Neville Goddard explained this in a very subtle but powerful way when he said that people are only messengers telling you who you are. That means every person in your life is reflecting your self-concept, not obeying your commands. So when you sit there trying to send the thought, they love me, but deep inside you still feel rejected, unchosen, or insecure, what are you actually transmitting? You are not transmitting love. You are transmitting the identity of someone who feels unloved. And that is exactly what gets reflected back to you. This is why so many people feel like they're doing everything right and still not seeing results. They're focusing on the technique instead of the identity. They're asking, how do I make them think this? Instead of asking, who am I being? Such that this is the only natural way they can think about me. And that question changes everything. Because when you really understand this, thought transmission stops being something you do occasionally and becomes something you are doing all the time. Every moment, through your assumptions, your inner conversations, your reactions, your self-image, you are constantly broadcasting a version of yourself. And people do not respond to your forced thoughts. They respond to that version of you. Imagine two versions of the same person. One version constantly wonders, why are they ignoring me? Why are they not texting me? Do they even care about me? Even if this version sits down for 10 minutes and visualizes being loved, the dominant identity is still someone who feels uncertain and unwanted. Now imagine another version of the same person who naturally feels, of course I am valued. Of course I am chosen. Of course they enjoy talking to me. This person is not trying to push thoughts. They are simply being someone for whom love and attention are normal. Which version do you think gets reflected more consistently? This is the shift. Thought transmission is not about sending a sentence into someone's mind. It is about becoming the version of yourself for whom that sentence is already true. When you embody that version, something very interesting happens. You stop feeling the urge to force anything. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop overanalyzing their behavior. Because from your perspective, there is nothing to fix. There is nothing missing. You already are the version of yourself who is loved, chosen, respected. And from that state, your thoughts naturally align, your energy feels different, your reactions change, and without you trying to control anything, people begin to reflect that back. This is why Neville emphasized self-concept so much. Not because it sounds good, but because it is the foundation of how reality responds. If you see yourself as someone who is always chasing, you will experience people who need to be chased. If you see yourself as someone who is always second choice, you will experience situations where you feel second. But if you shift into the identity of someone who is naturally prioritized, everything begins to reorganize around that assumption. And this is where thought transmission becomes effortless. Because now, instead of sitting and trying to implant a thought like, they miss me, you become the version of yourself who is naturally missed. And from that place, their thoughts align without you micromanaging them. You might still use techniques like visualization or inner conversations, but the intention behind them changes completely. You are no longer using them to control someone else. You are using them to stabilize your new identity. You are reminding yourself of who you are now. You are reinforcing the version of yourself who already has what you desire. So instead of imagining them saying, I love you, just to hear it, you imagine it because it feels normal for someone like you. Instead of affirming, they text me all the time to force a result, you affirm it because that is the kind of experience someone like you naturally has. The technique stays the same, but the foundation shifts from lack to identity. And once that shift happens, you will notice something very clear. People begin to behave differently without you trying to change them. Conversations feel easier. Responses come more naturally. The dynamic starts to shift in a way that feels almost effortless. Not because you finally said the right affirmation, but because you became the version of yourself that evokes that response. This is also why trying to change a specific person directly often feels exhausting, because you are trying to move a shadow without moving the object that is casting it. The person is the reflection. Your self-concept is the source. And until the source changes, the reflection will keep adjusting back to match it. So when you catch yourself thinking, how do I make them think about me? Pause and redirect that energy. Ask yourself, who am I being right now? Are you being someone who feels chosen or someone who feels unsure? Are you being someone who expects consistency or someone who anticipates disappointment? Because that is the real transmission happening. And the moment you start focusing on that, everything becomes simpler. You no longer need to figure out the perfect technique. You no longer need to repeat affirmations all day with pressure. You just need to return to the version of yourself who already has what you desire and remain there as naturally as possible. This does not mean you will never have doubts. It just means you stop identifying with them. You stop building your identity around temporary emotions. Instead, you keep returning to your chosen self-concept until it feels more natural than the old one. And over time, this becomes your default state. You no longer feel like you are doing manifestation. You are just being yourself. And your reality, including the people in it, reflects that version back to you. So the next time you think about thought transmission, remember this one idea. You are not sending thoughts to them. You are expressing who you are, and they can only meet you at that level. Once you truly understand that, you stop chasing outcomes and start embodying them. And that is the point where everything begins to change, not because you forced it, but because it could not be any other way. I hope this helped you. I will meet you with another golden nugget soon. Happy manifesting.